Next, let's see if we can do a little cleanup on the text. I'd like to have the images and the text wrapping a little bit. Some of them, like this top image here, I'd like to have on the right-hand side of the content, and the one down here on the left. And I'd also like to set up some margins for our paragraphs. You can see that they go right to the edge of our page and our boundaries. Now, if we set up some margins for the paragraph, we're also going to have to set up matching ones for the heading as well, since it's lined up in the same place. So let's deal with the text first. I'll go back to my CSS file, and we can see that we've already got a few styles in here set up for paragraphs and headings of different types. For setting up margins and paddings that match, I'd like to be able to set that property in one place instead of 4, 5, or 6. So I'm going to add one group selector right here at the top. I want this selector to work for paragraphs, but I also want it to work for all the heading tags as well. So I'm just going to put in commas and add all the rest of the tags in. We'll make sure we cover H1, H2, and H3. And if you're not sure if you're going to use the rest of the tags, you can go ahead and add them in as well, so you won't have to worry about them later. I'll set up my braces for the rules. And here we'll set up some paddings. Now I'm specifically using padding so we don't mess up the margins from the rest of the elements, but you can choose whatever you like and what works with your design layout. Here I'm going to set a padding left, and we'll make that equal to 15 pixels, and I'll do the same thing for the right. Now again, by doing it this way, I'm specifically not changing any padding settings for the top and bottom. Next, we can deal with the images. What I'll do is set up two class styles, one for an image that's going to be on the left and one for on the right, and we can apply those class styles to whatever image we want. I'll scroll down to where the rest of our class styles were, and I'll just drop one in here right above paragraph. I'll start it out with a dot, and the first one I'll call image left, or img left. Now, of course, this image, I want it to float left, so we'll add that. And let me set one up for an image right. I'll just copy this one, and we'll change the values. I'll change the name first, and then we'll change the float value to right. Now I'll save my changes to the CSS file, and what we'll need to do is go back to our index page and apply those class styles. Here's the first image, and I want that to float to the right of the page, so I'll just add that right at the beginning of the tag. Class equals, we need it in quotes, and we'll use the img right class that we just made. I'll scroll down a little bit, and we can find the image at the bottom of the page, and we'll do the same thing, but we'll set up the image left on it instead. Now let's save our changes, and we'll go back and see our page looks. Now our content looks a lot better. You can see that our image is floated over to the right, and because it's included inside the paragraph, we can see the 15 pixel margin right here on the right edge, and we can see the 15 pixel margin on the left edge as well. Notice for our lower image, because it's not inside a paragraph, it's still aligned with the left edge of the page, so we'll need to fix that. And one other thing that I want to change is I'd like to push this quote down a little bit on the page so it's not hanging up here with the other header elements. So let's go back to our CSS file, and first I'll go to the image left class that we created, and we'll just add a little padding there to match the paragraph and heading tags. We only need a padding left, and I'll set it to 15 pixels to match the others. Then I can go to our block quote tag, and we'll just add a little bit of padding there. Here I want it on the top. And to push it down, I'm going to add in about 150 pixels. Let's save our changes, and we'll see how that looks. I can see that my quote got pushed down the page, and that looks a little bit nicer. And we can also see that our left-aligned image is lined up with the rest of our elements. Now that, of course, leaves us with the header to fix. And what I'd like to do first is work on the menu system that we've got here. These are our main menu links to all of our other pages. But the first thing I'd like to do is actually spread them out sideways. And we can actually do that on lists with CSS. Although I want to make sure that we only do it for the list that's up here in the nav and not any list that we happen to put down in the content. So let's go set up a style for that. I'll go back to my CSS document, and I'll scroll down to the bottom of where we're setting up our tag-based selectors, and we'll add one more. In this case, I want one specifically to work on the list items in the nav section. So I'm going to put in a special compound selector starting with the nav tag, then looking for an unordered list UL tag, and finally setting a style for the LI or list element tags inside that. Now the property I'm going to use we haven't used yet. It's called display. And we can use it with a lot of different block elements to control how they're laid out. By default, our lists use the display property of block, but what I'm going to do is change my list elements to inline. Now let's see what that does. I'm going to save that change, and we're going to go back out and refresh our page. You can see now the list items are shown in line with each other, and we've eliminated the tab and the little bullet graphic that was showing before. Now I still want to clean these up a little bit. First off, the color is not suited for the rest of the elements, and we probably don't need to see the underline in the case of these links. And while we're at it, we can change the spacing a little bit and give our header a little different color for contrast. So let's go back to our style sheet and set all that up. First of all, since we're going to be working on the anchor tags that are inside of our list, I'd like to create another selector down here, and we'll use a compound selector again. I'll start with nav, and we'll use the UL and LI to make sure we're talking about elements in the list. And this time I'm going to add into the selector an anchor tag as well. Now let me set up the braces for our rule, and let's set up the styles that we want to see. First of all, I'm going to change the color to white so it shows up a little bit better. I'll just use the named white color. And we wanted to get rid of the underline. That's done using the text decoration property. And what we'll do is set that to none. Finally, I wanted to add a little spacing up here, so let me just add some padding. And using the shorthand notation, I'll add 2 pixels to the top and bottom, and we'll add about 10 pixels to the left and right side. And as I mentioned, I'd like to also set the background color of the header. And we've got a header tag selector right up here at the top, so I'm just going to take the dark blue color this time and copy that out of our comment. And we'll go down and add a background color property and paste in our dark blue. Let's save, and we'll go out to our browser and see how it looks. Now we can see that dark blue color up in the header, and we can see our menu items all spaced out nicely. The rollover still works in each case, but now we're seeing white text for the base link instead of the blue that we had set for the other ones. And notice since we set that up as a special compound selector, it hasn't affected any of our other links. Now the only thing that's really left for us to do is to set this up on the other pages. Now you'll notice some of the settings are already going in because all of our pages are using the same CSS file. But we'll need to add some special tags. For instance, we'll need to add the div tag so it knows what the page content is down in here, and we'll need to add in our image tags for the left and right images. So for practice, go ahead and set those up on the rest of the pages. Now, as usual, I've gone ahead and finished out the rest of my pages, but I've still got the cable cars HTML page open to show you what I did. First of all, each page now has a div with an ID of page that surrounds all the content on the page. There's my top tag, and of course I've got my close tag down here at the bottom. Secondly, I made sure every page has a section tag that includes all of the H1, H2, and paragraph elements that are the content on my page. And finally, each one of my images, I've set up a class telling it which way to go on the page, either image right or image left. When I set up the cable car page, there was a little bit of crowding on the text right in here. And sometimes that'll happen when you start using your CSS styles on a different page. You'll have to make some adjustments. In my code here, you can see that I went down to the image left selector that we created before, and I added 15 pixels of padding on the right in addition to the padding on the left. I've made the same changes to all the other pages with the section tags and the div tags, and now as we click through the different sections of the site, we can see that all of our pages are laid out with the same nice arrangement of the content. Now in our next chapter, we're going to take a look at adding a form to our site.